Hi there, TaffyRue here, and welcome to another exciting edition of Features by TaffyRue, where we get to put the spotlight on young, upcoming artists and creatives who are bubbling under. I first met today's guests when she tried out for Bring It On 2021. So that's way back in 2021. She did come back for Bring It On 2023 when she actually took the top spot in the singing category. But ever since I met her, I have been privileged to watch her ministry grow from glory to glory. I've seen God open doors for her, and I know that it's only just the beginning. I'm super excited to be talking to Nyasha Pfaira, aka Majesty. Hi, Nyasha.
Hi, I'm Taffy.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So, can you tell us a little bit about Nyasha?
So, I am Nyasha, aka Majesty.
Mm-hmm.
That's how some people know me.
Mm-hmm.
I was born on the 10th of June 2005.
Oh, wow.
I grew up in Gweru.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I grew up in Gweru, mostly with my grandmother. I lived most of my life with my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved to Harare. I am currently studying culinary arts. I am a chef, guys.
Okay.
I'm a chef. But that's not where the heart is. The heart is in the worship. You know, the art, the gift that God has placed in my life. And I have just grown so, very fond of and saying, wow, look at how far God has taken me.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. Why worship?
I really, so many people ask me that question, and I'm like, okay, have you ever listened to a song, a gospel song, and you felt so, you are absent-minded, but have you ever, you listen to it, in the middle of listening to it, it's like you're not that conscious of what's going on where you are, but you're more conscious of what's going on in your spiritual soul, how moved you are. Of course, that's what most songs do, but with worship, it's like you're taken to a different dimension.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa, it's like that's where even how happy you are, and you listen to a worship song that moves you so bad, you just go in so deep and you're like, whoa, where am I?
Yeah.
Where am I? So that feeling to know that you're able to feel that from time to time, you are not, it's like with God, you're not hiding who you are. You may be happy in the physical, but to God can see, God can feel how you're feeling in that particular moment. And he's like, I notice, I can hear you, I can feel what you're feeling.
Yeah.
Here I am. Tell me, pour it out, type away. So yeah, I feel like that's why I'm so moved to worship.
Interesting. Okay, and when did you start, or when did you realize that you want to do worship music? Because I know for sure, people your age are not into worship music. Why do you think people are not into worship music like that? And when did you discover that you wanted to do worship music?
So why do I think my age group is not that into worship? So most people think, okay, we all categorize ourselves as Christians, but in certain friend groups, it's not that easy to say, oh, I'm a Christian. Oh, hey guys, I'm going to church, because you're afraid that your friends will say, but why? Let's go out somewhere else other than church and stuff like that. And then that then puts us into a position of saying, but do I really want to go to church? I wanted to, but do I really need to? Let's go somewhere else with my friends and stuff like that. So we then think that, and to a certain type of way, following God is not as cool as it is. But guys, let me not lie, it's actually cool. Like, there are times where God does funny things in your life and you're like, yo, you're a funny God, funny God you are. Because, he's the one who even said in his word, I knew you before before you're formed in your mother's womb. I knew you. That's the first person to know you before your friends even knew you. Before your mother thought, am I pregnant? God said, I know you. I knew you.
I'm the one who
formed you.
Yeah.
So and then to answer your other question, what made me discover I would want to do worship? So I think I've said this story quite a number of times. 2014, I stepped into Celebration Church, Borodale. At this point, I'm not so sure how old I am. I'm in grade 4. I'm 9.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm 9. So I step into the church and there's this image that I got. I'm stepping into the main auditorium and Pastor Bonnie Dushao is leading worship, and seeing a number of hands lifted. Mind you, these are like close to 2,000 people. Hands are lifted high, and there's this move. I don't know how to explain it, but when you step into a room full of people worshiping God, you feel this move. You feel something extraordinary, like something you've never felt before. You see something that you never think you'd ever see in your life. So after seeing that, I was like, that's it.
That's what I want to do.
That's what I want to do. I don't want to do it for the fame. I don't want to do it for that. But just seeing people lifting up their hands and I am leading them, that's amazing, guys. That is amazing.
Wow. That must have been quite like the impact that you probably experienced because you were quite young, and being in that room and really feeling the Holy Spirit really moving in that place during that time of worship really stirred it up in your heart that, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to be, worshiping the one and only true God. That is amazing. So in terms of, there are lots of worship singers around the world, right? If people were to say, who would you want to be compared to? Obviously not compared to as such, but like the type of sound that you want to do in worship or the kind of style that you want to do in worship, who would you probably associate or want to be associated with?
From all the songs I have written, I think about 4 or 5. And I have sent out to my close friends, my relatives, just so that they can get a feel of maybe something that I'd want to venture into. Janet Manyowa. Janet Manyowa is the one that comes up in their minds and says, it's giving Janet Manyowa feels, but at the same time, it's mostly Janet Manyowa. Yeah. And then it's also giving like Pastor Bonnie Dushao. Yeah. How she moves in her songs from the chorus, the bridge, the chant. I'm like, okay. But mostly it's Janet Manyowa.
And you've had the opportunity now to work with Janet Manyowa.
Oh, yes.
Right? So how has that experience been for you?
It has been amazing. It has been insightful. Being a person who then wants to venture into the industry as a gospel artist, having the chance to work with such inspirational artists, it's been very encouraging, having to see the ropes. Okay, I do this, I do that. I have to be like this, I have to be like that. It helps me realize that, okay, fine, when I then want to start it up, this is how I'm supposed to do it. As I go on, this is how I would like to build it.
Yeah, because you wouldn't need to reinvent the wheel, right? Yeah. Because you've already been exposed to how it's done and the benefits of doing something, or, what to avoid and all of those things. What lessons have you learned from the experience of working with Janet Manyowa. I know that you did Wangoba, right?
Yes,
and
we
you also
did.
did Anot, right?
Yes.
What lessons did you learn that you can take into your life as a worship leader, but also in life in general?
The lessons.
Mm.
Wow, that's a deep one, yo. How you drilled me. But then
I mean, we all want to learn. You know, we want to learn. What lessons did you learn?
What lessons did I learn? The lessons I learned is that don't show your faith in God only on the stage, on the screens, in front of people. It also has to be behind the scenes. Like, we see Janet Manyowa move lives at every single time she ministers. I wouldn't say a performance. Every single time she ministers, we've seen her move lives, getting feedback. And I'll tell you that she not only does it in front of everyone, but also behind. Even in the rehearsals, that energy that you see happen with her ministering on stage is the same energy that she also gives behind. Because it's like, we're not only rehearsing a song list, but you're rehearsing each and everything that is going to take part on that specific day, during that moment that you're ministering. So it's what we always say, even I guess with every single artist. Don't only rehearse how you're going to sing it, also rehearse the energy. What type of energy do you want to give to show off? Do you want to, because if I give a positive energy, I'm going to receive a positive energy. So I guess, those are the lessons I've learned.
Okay. So I think the biggest lesson I think you've taken away from there is also not just being a Christian on stage, right? Just singing Christian music or worship music, but you really, really have to then live that life outside, because then the relationship that you do have with God by yourself in that secret place, that is what you are just sharing with the world when you are on stage. Wow, that's powerful. Okay. Probably my next question for you would be, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, where do you see yourself?
Where do I see myself 5 years or 10 years from now? I think I've received that question so a couple of times. Got to a point where I also had to write down the plan. Yes. Because as I'm not so sure which verse in the Bible it is, but you have to write down the plan, the vision, the plan, you know, to give you direction, but to also like to tell God, this is where I want to move. I'm not so sure if that's what you also have planned for me, but you know, let's see how it sinks. So 5 years, 10 years from now, where do I see myself? I would say to myself, I'm a giver. I'm compassionate. I'm a person who says that even if I have it, you don't have it. The little I have to give away. That's the type of person I am. Like, I only have $1 and you ask for $1. I'd say, let me give the person the $1 and I would rather stay with nothing. That's the type of person I am. So I want to start up, would I say an institute or an outreach program where I focus on the less fortunate. That's where my heart is. Okay. You know, giving to the people that don't have much, the people that don't have anything at all, giving them hope that, you know, things will get better. You know, I want God to show that love to people through me. You know, the love that I feel from God, I want to show other people that you can also feel that love with the much that you do not have. So that's my plan. I'm not only in Zimbabwe, not only in Africa, but all around the world. Wow. I also see myself as a person who's leading worship in a stadium of thousands of people, where people are raising up their hands. I I wouldn't say I want to be an influencer, but I also do. But I want to also, like, I want people to feel and be like, okay, fine. I don't know how to like phrase it, but I want people to feel like, okay, look at how Nyasha's life turned up. Maybe my life is also going to become better, you know, because we all don't have those perfect background stories, the life stories, you know. To get to where you are, you must have faced a lot of trials and tribulations, but to some other person, they have to be like, okay, I want, if Nyasha can do it, if Aunt Taffy can do it, I can also do it, type of thing. With the whole chef thing, I'm not yet sure. I'm not yet sure because I'm debating. Do I want to open restaurants? Do I want to do it as a private chef business? But I'm like, you know, God, I'm trusting you.
Yeah.
You help me see the way through.
Yeah. You never know how God can use that skill that he would have put in you as a chef and combine it with your desire to help and give other people, and then also with the whole worship thing. God has his own way of weaving a person's story together with the different, you know, gifts and talents and skills that he would have given them. So just you wait. I'm sure God has, he's got a specific place where only you can fill with what you have. What he has given you. That's amazing. Okay. Probably before we go on to the next segment, I want to ask you, what issues do you think are facing people in your generation?
In my generation, one thing I've noticed is trauma. Trauma, the feeling of being alone even when you're not alone. That's another one. I am not saying it as a person who has seen it, but as a person who's also gone through it. You know, when someone else tells you that they're going through a very traumatic season, you're like, but guy, but then as a person who's also gone through it, I'm like, okay, whoa, it's something very deep. It's something that shouldn't be really taken lightly. Trauma to an extent that you feel alone when you're not alone. That's a lot. That is a lot.
Interesting. And how do you think we can solve those issues? Because I know, like, for example, with social media, I think that's one thing that is helping us to feel alone when we're not alone, because probably you'd see young people, they're in a room full of other young people, but they're on their phones. They are with people. They can be accepted and have a place of belonging, but they are stuck on their phone, for example. How do you think we can help, or what could we say or talk about that could help these young people to slowly get out of that feeling of being alone?
I think what helped me get out of the sense of the fear of being alone. And, you know, because there's a thing of people also say, enjoy your own company, you know. Of course, you are surrounded by people, but you also have to enjoy your own company. Be yourself. I feel like that's one thing, because I also have times where I feel like I'm alone when I'm not really alone. And I feel like that's me just holding back who I am, you know, and not showing my true form. And also the thing of never take like for granted the people who ask you, are you okay? Do you need help with anything? Because those are the times where you notice that you release a lot. You know, a lot that you never thought you would feel, a lot of things that you never thought that you have felt, you know, you are releasing. And also think of enjoying your own company, you know, if it means you're putting on music in your own room
and you're dancing,
go ahead. Because that helps you feel, okay, even with the times when you're really alone, you're like, I'm fine with it, you know. So then comes the times where you feel alone in front of people, like, I don't feel alone, guys. I've got me, you know. I love myself. I know who I am. So why? Yeah.
All right. Oh, that's cool. All right. So now we've come to the part where we switch roles and the interviewee becomes the interviewer.
let me get ready to drill, guys.
So do you have any questions for me? Anything you'd like to know?
Like for you, the same question that you asked me.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you not compare yourself to, but who do people like with you and your music?
Mm-hmm.
Who do people say, like when you released your first song or wrote your first song, who do people say to, you sound like this person, stuff like that?
That's an interesting question. Because I think it's evolved over the years. Most recently, Pastor G was like, I sound like, CC Wine sort of direction. I'm like, no, I love her. But I was like, I don't know. And then in the past, I don't think, unfortunately, when I did start my music, the kind of sound that I wanted, there wasn't, a lot of Zimbabwean musicians who were doing my style of music. So they couldn't really put me anywhere. Because I wanted, I don't know, because there just weren't people doing the kind of music because I was inspired. I think I told this story in another episode that I was inspired by, let's say, like Funkisai and her message that she was doing. So I used to listen to Funkisai, I think Sebastian Magaja, I used to listen to them, and then I used to listen to a lot of Mariah Carey, to Destiny's Child. Those were, so I love the message there, but I love the sound there. So that is the kind of sound that I was going for. So so people will probably be like, you want to sound like probably like Destiny's Child. But obviously it wouldn't match because it was gospel mostly. So yeah. But in terms of now, I think now there are more options or more people that are doing the kind of music that I'm doing, and I think, so probably I would say probably the sound that I was going for was probably like Mary sort of sound way back then. That's from my perspective. But I think I would have to go back and ask people from my high school and be like, who do I sound like? Who would you think I sound like? Yeah.
Okay, mic check 1 2. I'm not yet done here. Let me get comfortable. I think just one more. With you, one thing I've also challenged, I'm having challenges with is composing and writing the songs. It will happen in the most awkward of moments. You're washing dishes and all of a sudden you're singing a new tune, you're singing brand new lyrics. How do you write most of your songs? Basically.
Ooh, you're having this struggle and you don't have children yet. So my journey with writing music before I had a family is very different from now. So you'll find back then, like you're saying, you'd be doing like the most random things, and a tune would come up, and you'd be able to. So what I would do is I'd record myself. So very early on, before phones had really good quality, my dad got me like a tape recorder. Ooh, I'm selling my age, yeah. Got me a tape recorder. And I used to record a lot of my tunes on that and words. And then, but what I would do is, because I had a lot of time on my hands, I would then flesh it out and write to it. So I'd get like a chorus and I'd sing that song, sing that tune and those words. And then I would, because I had time, I would then work on the rest of a song.
Yeah.
Then I got married, and then I had a child, and I'm trying to, like, a song, a tune would come in my head and stuff. And then you'll find my husband or my daughter come in, they start singing another popular song that they know. And that train of thought just goes, so it has been really challenging writing music now. But it's still the same in terms of when something comes, get your phone and you record the melody, especially. Like for me, particularly, a melody would come with words, and I would then have a theme that I'll then build the words from. But it's absolutely important that I've realized to carve out time to be creative, to actually write a song. If you don't carve that time out in your schedule, you're not going to do it.
True.
That's one thing that I've seen. So like when I was the music that I've been writing now, because I was working with other people and I was on like a clock, I would have to be like, I have to write something now, you know. So then that's how I wrote Nemi, for example. But in terms of the other songs I've written, I'd go for a walk and God would just deposit a melody or words. The benefit of technology is that you have your phone with you wherever. So I've been then able to record those melodies and things like that. Yeah, that's how I write. I get a tune that comes with words, and in that I have a theme, and then I flesh out the theme. I think that's how I've been doing it. Other times I get people who give me the music, and then I write to the music, which is a couple of my songs. That's how I've managed to write. Yeah. How do you do it?
How do I do it?
How do you write? Yeah.
Sometimes it's like what you said, it's something that just comes to mind, and then you write it. Like the song that I performed with on Bring It On 2021. That's one. I don't really remember how it came to be, but I feel like it's a thing of whereby a tune or a rhythm built up in my mind, and then I was like, okay, let's go with it. And now someone has put me into a mind of thought of whereby I'm supposed to try to listen to instrumentals, even the instrumentals of other songs, that have been written before. But for you to get into the feel of, especially with worship, it's hard to write lyrics with the intention of, I have to write lyrics. But it's a thing of whereby in that moment of writing lyrics, you want to feel the move that you want people to then feel when you are then like ministering the song to them. Okay. So I'm trying to get into the groove of listening to instrumentals whereby I'm singing the song for the instrumental. And then I try to venture into a point or into a moment where I come up with my own lyrics. So yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I think one thing that I can also add on to writing lyrics, especially as Christians, is just being in your word.
True. That's very true.
Because the Bible does talk about out of the abundance of your heart, your mouth speaketh. Definitely. So even when you then have a melody or you have words that come to your mind, if you are reading your word, God, it's you have no option but just to overflow, especially when you're doing worship music. Yeah. Having that your relationship with God just flowing into your music. If you don't read your worship music will just be empty. Words that are not even doctrinally correct. Yeah. And yet when it's worship music, it has to be doctrinally correct. It has to really sink in with the word of God. All right. Oh, thank you so much for coming, Nyasha. I think I learned a lot from you from this conversation. But before we close, I would love for you to give a word of advice or inspiration or something small to someone who's watching, who wants to do worship music, who wants to, walk down the road that you're walking. So you could just look at the camera and tell that person,
Terera. I said listen. But anyways. But like one of my favorite verse is Jeremiah 29 verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you, not harm you, plans to give you hope and the future. I would say 3 words: trust, hope, and faith. that big guy up there, guys, is a person who, that relationship you don't want to take for granted. I understand we're going through it. Most people have said that 2024 was a year of trials and tribulations, most of it. And I would say that trust, hope, and faith. In the lowest of moments where you feel, whoa, like this is so deep and I'm so anxious, I'm scared. Trust, hope, and faith. Have that trust, have that hope, have that faith in God that He can do the impossible, because we know our God to be the God of the impossible. He comes in, He makes a way where there is no way. And I'll just leave you with that. Have trust, have hope, have faith, and you'll be shocked with what He will do in your life. So yeah.
Powerful, powerful words. You've heard it for yourselves. Trust, hope, and faith. We serve a big God, a God of the impossible. Don't be afraid to depend on Him, to rely on Him, and you'll be surprised where He will take you. And with that, thank you so much for joining us. See you next time.